Hey guys, welcome to the Journey NYC podcast. My name is Anthony Luke-Akagi. I'm here today. You will notice if you have been a follower with us that Jesse is not here. For those of you that do remember, Jesse actually moved to Colorado in the last year since COVID started, and his life has taken over and things have been busy. But we actually had a huge opportunity to speak with a really great guy whose name is Jeremiah Marshall. He suffers from a condition called epidermolysis bullosa, and he's got such an inspirational story. And I met him consequently on a business call where he was sharing his testimonial, and then followed him on social media and got to learn a lot about his story itself, and thought he would be such a great inspiration when, as the world is coming out of COVID, and people are feeling a little bit more positive, etc., or feeling as if it's a real struggle to get back into the normalcy of the world. What it was like for someone who's got other concerns that are sometimes a little bit more challenging. So what we'll do is, today was episode 14, and I'm excited to actually speak with him. So let's see if we can get him in. Jeremiah Marshall.
Hi.
Hey, welcome to the Journey NYC podcast. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
It's really, really going great. I know you're all the way in California, and thank you so much for just making the time to speak to me today. I know that Jesse's another one of our co-founders. He actually wasn't able to make it today, so I just wanted to hop on a call and chat with you. I know that we actually met, Jeremiah and I met on a phone call probably about 2 months ago. It was a business call, and he was sharing his testimonial about his condition. And I just found it so inspirational, and listening to his story, and then started following him on social media, and learned a lot. The man is popular, and apparently he's a king on TikTok as well as Instagram. Remember that because it's part of his handle. But it was actually a really great way for me to actually learn a little bit about him, and then what we're going to talk about today. So Jeremiah, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about you? How old are you? I did already talk a little bit before you actually got in here about your condition called EB, or epidermolysis bullosa. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. My name is Jeremiah. I'm 29 years old. Born and raised in Southern California. I was born in Rady's Children's Hospital, August 31st, 1991.
Really?
Yeah.
You're literally the day after me.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I was born 2 days after another little boy with epidermolysis bullosa.
Really?
And yeah,
In the
that's
same hospital?
the same hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was the first. That was the only reason they knew what was wrong with me when I came out of my mother's womb. Was the skin was missing on my right foot, and there was a lot of just areas of missing skin, and all the doctors were crying, and it was just one nurse that was like, "I remember this," because he was there in the same delivery room as another boy named Mark.
So this is actually, it's not a common disease then.
It's 1 out of 50,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
And literally within 2 days they had 2 cases.
yeah,
So in some respects it was lucky that you actually were the second child. So at least they have had an idea.
yeah. So they called my doctor, uh, Dr. Eichenfield. He was brand new into the study of epidermolysis bullosa, and I was one of his first patients.
So is this so epidermolysis bullosa, can you tell people a little bit about what this disease is? Because I didn't know anything about it until a few months ago when I actually learned about it.
Yeah, so epidermolysis bullosa, or also known as the worst disease you've never heard of. It's coined the
Okay.
phrase.
Okay.
um, Also known as butterfly skin, because the
Butterfly skin.
skin
Okay.
is as delicate as the butterfly's wing. The color
Oh,
the color on the butterfly's wing is actually very easy to remove. It's like light paint almost.
wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and um, they call us butterfly children, which we're trying to change that because our lifespan is getting much more longer and past childhood. So it should just be butterfly people, or you know,
Exactly. Wait. So there was also a limitation in like how you were going to mature through this.
yeah. So when I was born, they said I wasn't even gonna really live overnight. And
What?
then I lived overnight, and then it changed to he's not gonna live till he's 8. And then I got to
Wow.
8, and then they're like, well, he's probably only going to live till he's 26, and I'm 29 now. So like,
Nice.
okay, so what's going to be the deadline here? Like, I'm waiting, and it still
Maybe
hasn't
there is.
happened.
Maybe you're breaking all the rules, my friend. Maybe you are the person that's going to set the new standard.
Right. And so like that's what I'm hoping. And like I got a lot of people that I'm inspiring, telling my story on TikTok. I have gotten people to come out of their shells to tell
Yep.
their story of their crazy story, like it just it's crazy how you can touch lives through a phone.
Tremendously. I mean, I just got to listen to you on a work call, and I just thought this man has got such determination and such passion,
I
and
appreciate you said
and
man.
it. I remember just being moved by it. But anyway, so let's go back to the question. Can you tell people a little bit about what the actual disease is?
Yeah,
Um,
sorry about that. I get
no,
sidetracked
it's fine.
easily.
No, totally.
So epidermolysis bullosa causes the body to there's a missing gene that uh creates in the body called collagen 7.
College. Okay.
Collagen 7A1. Uh Collagen 7A1 helps our skin layers anchor together,
Okay.
so that you can sit at your office desk and you know go downstairs for a drink with the comrades at the cooler and walk back up the stairs and sit at your desk, and at the end of the day not worry about having a blister at the bottom of your foot,
Okay.
or uh probably like the friction of you just getting up out of your seat can cause me damage on my thighs and my bottom.
Wow.
So the hours that you sit at your desk, the pressure points on my bottom are key breakdown points. Um,
Oh,
so I have to spend a lot of time laying down. Um,
to
there's
distribute the weight.
Yeah, to
Got it.
get off of pressure sores. So because our skin isn't anchored and it's missing that collagen 7 that everybody has,
Hmm.
um, pressure, friction, um, strenuous and repetitive motion, uh, sleeping in my bed, uh, rolling around in the sheets. It's
Wow.
spontaneous. I'll wake up with a new battle scar.
Oh my
um,
goodness.
and there's a lot of like nerve firing, and you know how people sleepwalk?
Yeah.
Well, I sleep itch, and
Okay.
I keep going and going, just drill and I drill and I wake up and
There's
my
a
sheets
new
are like a murder scene.
blood. Yeah.
And it's like somebody's always trying to hide a murder scene, and it's not the case.
Wow.
um,
Do they know what causes this?
yeah, they know the exact where it's happening in the layers of skin, and
Okay.
um, they've targeted it, and they have all kinds of gene editor scientists,
Hmm.
businesses, all hopping on the horse to help cure this. And there's more tests going on now than there has been in the last 10 years. and that speaks volumes. And with all of the people that are
Tremendously.
getting, yeah, with all of the treatments and uh, butterflies that have put themselves up for
Sure.
testing, to be the guinea pig for a better future for the rest of the other butterflies.
Yeah.
And um, it's amazing. If anybody's inspired by what I'm saying here, it's one and the same with every butterfly. If uh, if there isn't something that you're inspired by my story, there's another butterfly that you're going to be touched by. Like it's a butterfly effect. Um, it doesn't stop. Once you meet one butterfly, you got to meet them all.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
like,
and
yeah,
if you keep breaking all of the expectations, and you've lived to 29 now, and you're gonna hit 30 and possibly even beyond that, I mean,
yeah,
that just says that we're making progress of some sort.
yeah.
Um, so okay, so what was that like for your family? I mean, because I'm assuming that 30 years ago, is there were no ways to tell, whether that you were going to have this is it a disease, a syndrome? Um, what happens at at the level of your parents, for instance, like how did, because they have to, it's not just learning how to take care of a child now. You're learning to take care of a child with a very specific
Yeah.
condition that back then it didn't sound like people knew much about.
No, they didn't. So, um, people treated our wounds as battle wounds, like uh, burns. They're not anything like that.
Uh-huh.
They're comparable, but they do not heal anything like a burn
Sure.
or a damage caused by someone else. Um,
Got it.
it is much longer. It takes a lot more patience, and the wounds just look different from a normal person's burns.
Sure.
Uh, and I don't mean this to any doctors or uh, any years of training that they go through, and it's blood, sweat, and tears, and
Sure.
but we are our own specialists. Uh, doctors tell us, you use this ointment, you need to use these bandages, you need to change it every day. It's like, well, yeah, if it's a burn, but this is my wound, and every skin is different, and I know how my wounds heal. I know how they
Oh,
feel. I know, when it's too much bacteria, when it's not looking good, when I think you should look at it
got
versus,
it.
like the limitations,
Hmm. So
and
each butterfly person had
mhm.
their skin type designates the way that the disease actually um, sort of manifests and heals,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
this skin can like occur in patches. There's places that are completely unaffected. Like the bottom of my left foot, uh, still has all of its footprints and has never been damaged, and it looks like a normal person's foot. The back, middle center of my back between my shoulder blades is completely untouched, and there's light hairs still there, and the skin texture, and it doesn't look like crepe skin, and all of that.
Wow.
And it's only recently that doctors found out that it can happen in sections, like psoriasis or like a
Exactly.
rash,
Yeah.
or and they're taking like biopsies of those areas. They're risking damaging that spot for science.
Well, and I think
um,
that's like what you said, right? Is we have to herald all of these other individuals who are putting themselves in the line of being these guinea pigs to, all for the greater good.
yeah,
Because there are no ways for doctors to know. I mean, I can only imagine how far we've come. If you're 29 going on 30, how far we've come now compared to where we were back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you noticed,
Crazy.
have you seen the difference between the way that your treatments have evolved over the course of this duration? Because there's very few people, I think, in the world that have physical conditions, starting from the age of, one, or zero, going all the way up to third, that can recall, like,
Mm-hmm.
I've been going
Yeah.
through this treatment. Have you seen the way that it's evolved as well?
Yeah, and I've seen treatments that I could have done that I didn't do or took advantage of that I could have done to
Mm-hmm.
uh less severe my case of EB, lessen the
Yeah.
severity. Like rotating, keeping range of motion is a huge factor because like absence of movement is more impactful on us than the average human. So
Wow.
like when you don't keep up with your exercise and
Uh-huh.
you start, getting fatter or whatever,
Yeah.
if you don't keep that muscle going,
Yeah.
you lose it. And it's not it's not gradual with like you. It's rapid.
Wow.
So if I get a wound on my ankle and I can't walk for a few weeks,
Sure.
those few weeks my legs lose strength
Sure.
and I don't stand. I can't stand. And
Wow.
I had a wound once on my ankle that just didn't heal.
Uh-huh.
Um, and uh, it kept me off my feet for so long that my calf muscles started to shrink
The
and
atrophied.
they atrophied. And um, just basic knowledge of keeping your rotating your ankles, keep rotating your ankles
Sure.
like just a few minutes a day, even if it hurts, it's gonna open that wound again, but it's gonna heal. And you'd rather go through that pain than go through the long term,
Of trying to
uh,
rebuild the calf muscle.
or just up and losing your ability to walk one day and not
Wow.
not regulating or figuring out when did that happen.
When was it that
Yeah,
coming out of the pandemic, so many people are like, when did this 15 pounds happen? It's
yeah,
like,
like
because
when
people just become
you
immobile or less mobile or
you lose
less.
yourself. You lose yourself in your emotions,
Sure.
I lose myself in my disability. I lose myself in my chronic pain. And time is passing me by because I can't pull myself out of my chronic pain and focus on what's really the problem here is that I'm losing my ability to walk here. And
And yet you do. I mean, I get that on a day-to-day basis there are moments when you're going to feel like, I can't, you can't get out of your own way because there's pain. For you, it's chronic pain that is in the way.
yeah, and it's hard to communicate that when
Sure.
especially when you're a child and your parent isn't quite knowledged on uh, chronic illnesses.
Well, and I also think
Uh,
that it's probably really hard if you think about it. Like,
yeah, because
no,
they're
I
all
don't think there's any parent that wants to see their child in pain. So if the child
correct.
is doing things to avoid pain, but it's actually detrimental to their long-term health, God, that's just like the worst doozy ever. Like, that's
Yeah,
like,
because
to
like the
force your
parent,
child to go through pain so that they can, for the long term, they can keep, stay mobile or walk, or, my
yeah,
God.
yeah, because like if you look at it like this, we're growing up as children and learning,
Hmm.
and our parents are growing up as well. We're growing up together, but
Hmm.
on a different level.
Sure. One is
And
experiencing it. One is experiencing it as a quote unquote caregiver, or, a parent.
yeah, and they're going through their own thing and going through their own feelings
Sure.
of guilt and just how do I fix this problem, and
Helplessness, all of
help,
it.
yeah, all of it. And it's the exact same feeling for both, and that needs to be communicated, you know, as the child develops. It's communication is key. And you know
And I
some people,
think for parents, it's probably really difficult because when you think about it, as parents are supposed, you, and I can remember this, like parents don't want to show their kids when they're in pain. They
yeah,
want to be the
they want to be
backbone for them. And
the
it's,
strength. They
and
can't
yet,
show fear.
exactly, they are the ones that kids go to when it's like everything will be okay. But the fear that a parent would probably hold is, I don't know how to make this better. So,
Exactly.
and it's hard because I think as a parent, I mean, and I know this in my own life, you come from a point where you're trying to do your best in the only way that you know how. And at some point is you sort of insulate the feelings that you would have as a parent trying to protect your
Yeah.
child. And yet that dialogue is really important in this particular case. And I guess in every case, I think communication to children, whether they realize the severity of situations or not, is really key, because
Hmm.
it's important that we understand that children understand that their parents are vulnerable, and that they're trying and doing the best that they know how to do as well.
Right. And it's hard. It's hard to slam reality into somebody,
Yeah,
to somebody who is brand new,
sure.
right? And it's about how you present that reality, and whether you communicate it, in a certain emotion
Sure.
and tone of voice. And the impact is less if you can do that.
Versus communicating when you're angry, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Like, yeah, voicing your concerns at a different emotion.
Sure.
And I think it's hard for people to view their child as an equal, because really they're no different from you. They're just smaller and in a different age. Their brain is just less developed. They're still all the same: makeup, blood, veins, emotions, feelings. You just have to learn how to bring that to attention, and
Hmm.
how much you're willing to over explain it to get it through their head. Like, logic, I feel like, should always be presented through all parts of life.
Fair. Spoken like
And
a true Virgo.
yeah, like it's brutal, but like it's reality. Like, how you gonna step forward without facing reality? You have a chronic
True.
illness. This illness is scary. Like, I would tell this to any kid with this disease. Like, this illness is scary. You got to watch out for infection. You got to stay on top of your health. Not only for yourself, but like for everybody that cares about you.
Mhm.
And it's just like reality. Like
I
it,
think the world has come a
and it
long way too, in highlighting these things. Like I see on social media, there's a kid that, Roman's incredible journey and stuff like that. I think people are getting better at communicating with children
yeah.
than what we were, I think, probably 30 years ago.
And
What were
it's
you,
hard to sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
no, what were you told when you were young versus today?
Um
Or did you know about your condition when you were a child? I think that's a more relevant
I
question.
I knew about I knew that I was different from everybody else when I was in kindergarten.
Okay,
Um, I grew up very loved and very put on higher ground than most.
sure.
Treated like a king. Uh, that's why.
Hence your social media handles.
That's why I have such a strong personality. I was raised and loved and cultivated to be um to go after my everythings.
That's
And
awesome.
um I just like was that was just so ingrained in me up to the age
Uh-huh.
of 5
Okay.
that like and that love was maintained as I grew up through kindergarten, elementary school, and that I got accustomed to thinking, you know, I'm above everybody else here. No matter
Okay.
what everybody else thinks of me here or says about my disability or how much they stare at me,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to kill me is this disease.
Okay.
Or, God forbid, my own hand, which I don't, whichever hopes I don't take. But I've heard it all. I've seen it all. I've felt it all.
Sure.
The only thing that's gonna hurt me is myself or this disease or
Got it.
somebody else's bad intentions. So,
Well, I
you
think
know,
what stands out for me just from those statements is that it sounds like they brought you up with your parents
reality.
brought, yeah, with the reality, but also with the strength to not look at your disease as a limitation.
Yeah,
What was limiting for you physically was not going to limit you mentally or without, drive.
yeah. I had 5 years to affirm that belief,
Hmm.
and that's all it took.
Sure.
And I'm over here trying to change people's minds that have been in my life since I was born
Hmm.
that this disease isn't a limitation. And it's like you raised me to believe for 5 years that nothing's gonna stop me.
Uh-huh.
And I'm still trying to convince you, like, come
Yeah.
on.
So what are the things that you aspire to? I mean, what are the things that you dream about?
Everything, I sit with my thoughts all the time. There isn't a thing that
Which
I
which I
haven't
do think
overthought.
is cool because that's what you come across with on your social media platforms. Like
Yeah,
there
I
are
think
some
of
really thoughtful posts.
I I have a way with my words. I'm very descriptive. Um, I use even the most plainest words to get my point across because even the most plainest words are impactful.
Hmm.
Um, especially if you say them over and over again, like like a mantra, just like
Sure.
chant. The yes we can. Like Obama, and
Hmm.
um, and I overthink everything, like the dynamics of my whole life, how my relationships are going to go, how my jobs, my careers, what failures might happen, even if I don't understand that industry or business that I want to get into. I try and think of the possibilities
Hmm.
of it. And I once I think of a possibility, I try and Google it
Oh,
and
really?
I
Okay.
see if it's a thing. And
That's cool.
I'll be like, wow, that's actually a term that I've stumbled upon that I thought maybe I was a person that discovered it, but no, it's like a thing. And
Hmm.
it's come to fruition without, it's cool to feel like you discovered something but found out others are on the same level.
Sure.
Like I learned that um I think about my past a lot and I reflect on everything, and I think about past conversations and the things that I said and the things that were said to me and how I reacted in that moment and how I could have reacted better. And, it's just this insane tirade of thoughts. And I lost track of my thought.
That's because you have many of them going on.
Yeah.
So what you were saying, what you were talking about is how you create that drive in yourself and the thoughts and the way you think things through
Yeah, I'm
and every.
constantly analyzing and bettering myself in my head so
Mhm,
that I can implement it in everyday life and see what the result is,
sure. And I
versus the
think,
past.
yeah, I think what's interesting is every human being that I've come across, and even for myself, is we get to this point where we have great ideas. And the difference between a great idea and it becoming a thing is, first of all, taking the first step and taking action for it. And it's
Yeah.
not just taking action for it, but then it's acting on it. For instance, this is completely off the subject, but for those of our listeners that have actually been with us for a while, you all know that Jesse, the way that the Journey NYC podcast started was Jesse and I had a conversation one day, and Jesse was talking about, I think it would be really kind of cool to share stories of everyday people who are not necessarily celebrity, but
Hmm.
who are going through their own journeys and highlighting these journeys, because through the journeys of others, we can find inspiration, we can find strength, we can find motivation, we can
Yeah.
find the
It,
ability, to step forward and take action. And then, of course, is the running joke with us here is that don't share anything with Anthony, because the moment that I think an idea is great, I'm like, okay, let's do it. And then like
yeah,
3 months later is we have a recording studio in, my old place and whatnot. Um,
exactly. Like people are so held back by possibilities, and
what
it's like,
ifs?
yeah, what is like just work through that. Like if that comes up, okay, how can we work through that to make it a thing still? Like
Mhm.
don't let it stop you. Go through the process.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, it's interesting because we are ingrained, and I think different people are different, are brought up in different situations where
Yeah.
you are afraid of the failure and what that feels
The
like,
setback,
and the
the
shame
disappointment.
of it, the
Yeah.
shame, the um and what that shame means to you. And I think that's one of the things that we I know for myself I struggle with, is
Hmm.
I'm pretty good at running out there and getting the ball rolling, but then trying to maintain that momentum and stay
Yeah.
passionate about things, and then methodically
Without.
work as they evolve is one of the things that, as I always see in myself.
It's hard to be your own cheerleader.
That's why you get people who follow you on social media and we cheer for you.
Yeah, and like it's like my mom said it best, like um it doesn't sink in until you hear it from the right person. And like, your parents can drill into you, eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables. It's like, okay, ma, I'll eat my vegetables when I want to.
True.
It's like, okay, but like explain why you eat your vegetables. Like go in depth. What do you get out of eating your vegetables?
Hmm.
And what don't you get? Just bring logic into it. Don't just do this, don't do this.
Hmm.
Explain why. Explain. Communicate. And it's just so important. Communication goes a long way when you can do that.
Well, and to
Use your
your point,
words.
right? Communication has everything to do with not just, having the dream and the tenacity to stick to that dream or even to keep envisioning it, but it's also to take the action.
Yes, take
Um,
accountability.
yeah, and that communication and communicating not just with others but also with yourself so that you can take these steps is also really massive.
Yeah.
Jeremiah, I want to ask you this because I actually don't know.
Hmm.
So we've talked about, like you said, is at my own hand and this and that. And I noticed because you've been gesturing with your hand that your hand doesn't have any fingers on it. Is that
Right.
a symptom of epidermolysis bullosa, EB, or is it something entirely different?
Right. So this is actually in medical world called a hand deformity.
Oh, okay.
So because of the repetitive damage and repetitive motion and friction pressure between the digits of my fingers.
Oh, okay.
It's and the atrophy of muscles.
Yeah,
As I was saying, the absence of using muscles is impacted
sure.
later. So my muscles have shrunk in my fingers, and they've shrunk my fingers and turned into a fist.
Oh,
And then the wounds between the digits healed, and my
uh-huh.
fingers are fused. So I still have my fingers under here.
I
Um,
had, okay.
and I'm actually
I can
planning.
see them moving.
Yeah, you can see my thumb and my
Yeah, I can. I can see, and I didn't realize that.
yeah, and so that's one of my favorite things to do when I meet people. Like I'm like, here, give me your hand, like just feel my hand, and like
Just don't squeeze it too hard.
yeah, and like I can really see their reaction and how attuned they are with feeling stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because like their reactions are different. Either like they're awkward by it, or their face lights up, or
Hmm.
um and um yeah, I still have my fingers.
I
Um
can see them moving. I mean, I wasn't aware of that. It almost looks like you were either born without fingers because it looks like it's a
yeah.
fist.
It's just happened. It's just been this way for so long. It's just part of me.
So I have a question, which forgive me if it's a little completely off in left
No,
field,
I'll
but
answer
we
all
were
questions.
texting while we were actually going through this,
hmm
trying to schedule this. How do you text? Is it
Um,
voice texting, or like how do you text?
just touch.
So you just
Just
use a different part of your fist,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
Got
exactly.
it.
I mean, you could text with your nose. You could text with your
That is
lips.
true. I just always
And
it just seems like it would be so inconvenient or like
it is. It's
time
very
consuming.
inconvenient.
So it's easier if somebody just picks up the phone.
That or I sometimes like to send audio messages.
I love audio messages.
Yeah, and when I text, I use the swipe feature.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So you
So
can, yeah.
I just dart around the screen and get my words out real quick.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so
Yeah.
that actually works really well for you.
Yeah. But other times when it's like a big word, it's hard to see through my fist and where I'm touching. So yeah.
That massive fist of
Yeah.
yours.
So I don't fat finger stuff. I fat fist stuff. Yeah.
So you know what is on that note of fat fists? I'm assuming that there are moments when and we've talked about this. What are the treatments for EB right now for you? Like you had mentioned earlier in our session that there are moments when you're in chronic pain, and I've seen a
Mhm.
couple posts as well where I know you're in pain, and my heart goes out to you. Um, what kind of treatments are you in? Like how do you treat those moments?
Um so as you see on my Instagram account, King named Jeremiah, uh in my bio it says I'm living proof cannabis heals. And
Got it.
that's literally all I use. I tried to stay away from any over the counter meds.
Got it. So the big pharmaceutical type of.
Yeah, big pharma doesn't touch me.
Okay.
I and if I ever did take anything, it was like halves of baby aspirin, or
Got it.
uh, once in a while when I really just am screaming at people. The least I'll have is like a cracked open ibuprofen in my tea. Um, but then after that, it's just straight up cannabis. I smoke cannabis bud on my bongs. I vape it. I rub it on
Yeah.
my skin with Can Originals, Theramu. Um,
What is Can
CBD.
Originals
Can
and
Originals is
Theramine?
CBD. Can Originals is CBD and THC, 2 to
Okay.
1, infused with emi oil.
Okay.
And Theramu is the same product, but without the added THC and psychoactive effects. One
Okay.
second. One sec. Hey, Mom, what's up? Okay, could I just have a tea? I'm just on the podcast real quick. Okay, thank you. It's all good. Don't feel bad. So, um, where were we?
We were talking
Medications.
about cannabidiol and Theramu, not and THC.
Right. So Can Originals, THC, CBD 2-to-1 ratio, infused with emu oil is amazing for us butterfly people because, all right, so I'm gonna get really excited here. My face lights
Okay.
up.
Okay.
All right, so Epidermolysis bullosa has the lack of anchoring our skin layers together
Sure.
because we're missing the collagen 7.
Yeah.
The skin is very porous, and
Oh, okay.
so there are a lot of access ways into the skin. So that means bacteria. We are very extremely
Oh,
susceptible to infection.
wow.
And infection is insidious because our pain tolerance is very very high. Not to brag.
No, I bet.
So sometimes I can wake up with a new surface infection and
Sure.
not even realize it until it starts really, getting its
Yeah.
germ going, and I'll be like, "Oh crap, I have an infection there." Like 3 days later,
Sure.
and I'll figure out that it's pretty deep and it's not good. And so Theramu, THC, CBD, 2-to-1 really helps that, and it gets down deep to the deep tissue layers, past all 3 layers,
Okay.
to the membrane where
Uh-huh.
literally our skin is separating at
3 layers below the surface.
yeah,
Wow.
literally where our DNA missing link is occurring 24/7. The Theramu CBD 2-to-1 ratio gets there, and it calms down the inflammation, all of
That's
the
great.
irritation, all
Uh-huh.
of the separating. And this EB is inflammation. Inflammation triggers all of it.
Sure.
And if you can take away the inflammation, eliminate it altogether completely, you can skip a process and go straight to healing.
Wow. I did not realize that.
Right. So inflammation is great. It's awesome. It brings awareness to the situation. It fills it with fluids. It eliminates infection, but it's painful as all hell. And you have to
So you're
wait for
talking about
the
swelling as well.
yes, swelling. That is
Okay.
inflammation.
Yeah.
You have to wait for the swelling to die down. You have to wait for the fluid to separate and go places. The CBD, THC, emu oil, it shortens that swelling process and inflammation, so it's not so long. And
Wow.
our wounds take years, months, lifetimes to heal. Literally, somebody with this disease can have a wound from birth. It'll heal. Yeah, sure, it'll heal, but it'll come back in that same spot, in the same fashion, in the same size.
Wow.
This eliminates it and keeps it away. And if it comes back, it's not back for long, and you actually get a break from it.
Which is probably a huge relief when you're dealing with pain.
Yeah, when you have a wound for so long in a certain spot, you forget what it's like.
When it's also mentally, it's just exhausting.
Yeah, it's constantly just feeding the receptors. Hey, there's a problem here. There's a problem here. There's a problem here. And just chronic pain is the same as mental health. Okay, you get stuck in it. You get comfortable in it. Okay, with it constantly feeding your brain, constantly releasing those chemicals, you get comfortable in those chemicals because that's all you know.
Exactly. Yes.
And so if you don't get a break from those chemicals, you forget what it's like.
Yeah, to live at quote unquote homeostasis.
At peace.
Yeah.
To be at peace with yourself.
Hmm.
And yeah, like again, I lose myself in my pain. For 28 years I lost myself with pain. And I snapped out of my pain and my woesome sorrowfulness because of my horrible life diagnosis when I was 28.
What horrible life diagnosis?
Epidermolysis bullosa.
At 28?
Yeah, I finally came to terms with it.
That that's amazing. I mean, what brought you to that point?
I got diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, here's my reality. I'm 28. I
Yep.
have this illness. I have quite this shitty attitude towards a lot of people um, because of this illness. I feel like I've been cheated uh,
Sure.
of life in
Hmm.
many avenues. Sorry if I get choked up here.
It's fine. You
And
have choked me up many times before, my friend.
um, and the only person that's going to communicate what I need is me.
Yep.
And I can't do that if I am always angry and always in my pain and always in my EB,
Yeah.
always in my butterfly skin.
Sure.
And that was always my setback was my EB.
Sure.
For 28 years, like I overthought all of my avenues, all of my dynamics of life.
Uh-huh.
And I keep thinking, EB is going to get in my way. I'm sure it's going to get in my way, but I can do things to not let it.
Hmm.
And I need to give myself a break. And I need to understand that as much as I want to be normal, and as much as I am not this disease, as much as I am not going to let this skin condition define me,
Hmm.
I need to just a little bit, not fully,
Sure.
so that I can stay here and maintain this journey of uh, life. So
Hmm.
I'm not gonna be here forever. My mom's not gonna be here forever. She's not gonna take care of me forever.
Sure.
And I sure as hell don't want to put that burden on anybody in my family to take up what she has taken up
Sure.
involuntarily.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm not gonna make anybody, hey, you're doing this now. I'm your thing now. No, I have a brain, I have a voice. I can do this.
Hmm.
And it's hard to change people's minds, you know?
Hmm.
And that's all I'm trying to do.
So
You
at
know?
28, you had this epiphany or a
That
diagnosis with cancer that
yeah.
got you out of your head and the anger and the constant awareness of this pain, and that was the only thing that you saw. And I'm assuming that that's when like that's a lot of what I've seen, obviously the last year of your life versus the prior, um,
Yeah.
just following you on social media. So is now you've turned this corner, and I'm sure that you're still in pain, at on different days, and it sounds like you found these two different topical ointments,
Mm.
Theramu and this other one. One has THC versus one does not.
Yeah, so I kind of think of it as like a stepping stone,
Okay.
to give those who have chronic pain a better chance at reality.
Sure.
um, the THC isn't good for a developing mind. Uh,
Sure.
so, but they need the relief of the inflammation being gone so that they can just be themselves. And
So can you educate me on the difference, because you said one
yeah,
topical
so
has THC
THC.
and one does not have it.
Yeah, sorry, I get into rambling a lot and
No, 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 it's fine.
philosophical.
I just don't know the difference
Right.
between.
So the CBD It's just the inflammation taking
Okay.
away.
Okay.
Um, it's effective, but not as effective when you have the THC added.
Okay.
There's a thing called the entourage effect.
Uh-huh.
Um, they complement each other very, very well. Uh, the speed of healing is greatly increased with the THC added.
Okay.
Um, because they complement each other, they enhance the effects and the rapid uh, healing effects.
Okay.
And while I do love Theramu and it does help me a lot in
Mm-hmm.
its many years, um, I prefer the can originals now that
Okay.
I can have THC.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what I mean like a graduation thing. Like I recommend starting butterflies off on this ointment before they turn 18. Um,
So something that doesn't have THC obviously in it.
yeah, so that they can at least get a little bit of relief from this stupid chronic pain.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for any chronic pain. If you don't want any THC in your pain relief, but you need that CBD topical,
Mm-hmm.
get some Theramu,
Okay.
It's amazing. And I have referral codes and discount codes I can update in my links on my social media bios.
That's awesome.
Um, Anybody with the butterfly condition, I have a special 50% off code for Theramu, and I have 20% off for just people who want to try Theramu uh, that want a discount.
Cool. And what we'll do is we'll actually put those in the descriptions, of the actual videos itself,
Yeah, sure.
as well, so that that can actually help you out. Um,
And
Go ahead.
so, as I was saying, um, but yeah, once you get a hold of the can originals and you see the effects and how much greater the product is enhanced with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I have progress pictures literally on my Instagram. You can see, and I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
update another one soon of the biopsy that I had taken in 2019,
Uh-huh.
2000 when I was 28 and I got diagnosed with cancer. I had a big growth on my elbow, uh, a big keratin growth. Keratin
Oh,
is what makes up your hair and your nails,
yeah.
and yeah. So when the skin gets damaged repeatedly,
Uh-huh.
uh, the cells lose themselves and they'll go into overdrive. They're like, okay, you want me to repair the skin? I'm going to repair
Mm-hmm.
the skin. And so it releases just a bunch of skin and
Okay.
nails and it goes into rapid cell growth. And
Wow.
I had this
Growth.
giant nail literally on my elbow and it would fall off in like 3 weeks, grow back in like 4 days, fall
What?
off in 3 weeks, and it was this back and forth nightmare of soaking it and hoping it falls off like a massive hangnail.
Oh,
Yeah, and
wow.
a lot of times I just want to just rip it off, and that's when I figured out it was skin cancer, and
Oh my God.
yeah, I thought it was psoriasis. I thought it was plaque psoriasis because it's in my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got a biopsy of it because I was losing weight. I was losing sleep. I was going through some online drama, heartbreak, and
Mm-hmm.
on top of battling this growth on my elbow, like enough was enough, and I needed a fix. And that's when Gary Lowe contacted me. He's a big part of the butterfly community and
Mm-hmm.
just chronic pain warriors in general. Just anybody going through some difficult physical pain. He's your guy that wants to help you get through it.
Sure.
That's Gary Lowe, and he's the founder of Theramu and Ken Originals, and the co-founder. And he gives me the hookup when I'm on my figurative deathbed. I need
Yeah,
some relief here, Gary. And he sends me a little care package. And it so it has to be Theramune sometimes. And it's not Ken Originals, but it pulls me back where I need to be so that I don't fade away completely. And
that's
it's like,
amazing that you have this support. That you have this support. I mean, and
yeah,
that you have this network of support that you can
it's a
also.
blessing. This whole
Yeah.
everything as a whole, like the medicine, Gary, this curse of a disease in a way
Hmm.
is not a gift to those who have it, but to those who are a part of our lives.
Absolutely. So, I mean, to wrap this up, I mean, Jeremiah, it sounds like you've had, I mean, and the journey continues, and I think that's one of the things about the Journey NYC podcast that we're really passionate about, is
Yeah.
that we understand that the journey never stops.
Yeah.
It's not an end point, and it
No, the
is
energy
at
continues.
yes, and at times it is exhausting, it is painful, it it can feel debilitating, but at the same time as well is it sounds like you have also come into your own and you found a really good place in your own head as far as what you're willing to now sit in and what you're not willing to, and where
Yeah.
you're willing to go with it. Not to mention is the support network that you've actually garnered through this process of self-awakening in some respects,
Yeah.
um, to what the next horizon is going to look like for you.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
is so cool. Is there anything that you'd like to leave our listeners with? And our greatest hope is that this episode, which is episode 14, will actually help people better understand this disease,
Mm-hmm.
as well as give visibility to those butterfly people that are out there that are living with this disease, that may or may not, feel like they have enough support, that there's someone out there championing, what is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you'd like to leave these people with as far as a thought?
Yeah. I'd like to say to all of you to challenge yourselves, challenge your minds, challenge everything that you believe in, even if it's everything you hold true to yourself, everything that you preach, all of your point of views, and challenge yourself. And I also suggest a big key to self development is try recording yourself. Uh, Try putting your thoughts into a space that is private to yourself. And at any emotion, just let it fly. And then later come back to it and assess, what was I feeling when I wrote this? Especially if it's a video and you're at your highest anger. Just say the most nastiest, toxic things that come to your anger and then watch it back and watch yourself. And you're like, wow, that's what I sound like. That's what I look like. How can I turn all of that energy
Uh-huh.
that I witnessed, that anger in that video, and turn it into something constructive? And instead of spewing hatred and resentment and my points of view on the world,
Uh-huh.
how can I turn it around and turn it into love?
Which I think is really interesting, because very often is we sit in the emotion, but we don't actually then go back to it
Yeah,
and assess it.
it's like Bane, he was born in the darkness,
Yeah.
molded by it. But did he ever try to record the darkness and figure
No.
it out? No, he just let it take him over, and he became his darkness. But if you listen to him, how articulate he is, how deep he is, he sat with his thoughts, and he let it mold him. He didn't fight back the mold. He don't let people and things and stuff shape you.
Mm-hmm.
You got to shape yourself.
That's powerful. And I think on that note is I just wanted to say thank you, Jeremiah, for being a part of the Journey, podcast. I think it's been a real journey, for everyone coming out of the pandemic. It's been a while since we've actually done an episode as well, just because, it's getting out of your own way and whatnot, and realizing that there are stories out there that inspire, and there are people that give other people strength just through their own convictions and the way that they live. And I find that so powerful, just your thought of recording yourself and then watching it back again.
Yeah,
so
I just want to say one more thing, just last few
go
things.
for it. Yes.
This entire universe is hurting. We are going through a mental health crisis.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard pill to swallow, but your behavior is a direct reflection of your past. And, your energy is so important.
Mm-hmm.
We are all energy. We're all connected. And the things that we let touch our energy shape us and mold us and change our point of view and our behaviors. And we don't realize it. So we lose our true self because we can't take a minute to not react.
Sure.
And reacting is so important because reacting changes our energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to protect your energy. And meditating is so important. Like, meditating isn't just sitting there, closing your eyes and breathing and thinking. What are you thinking about is important.
Mm-hmm.
What you're focusing on. Your mind is a weapon, and so is your voice. So remember that, okay? Lead with love, and that's all I'm going to say. Just lead with love.
Jeremiah Marshall, you are literally the king named Jeremiah, which incidentally, guys, is his TikTok and his Instagram handle. Thank you so much for making the time today to talk to me here at the Journey NYC podcast. We like to say that we'll follow up, with people to find out exactly how they're doing and how they're progressing. But I think that one thought that Jeremiah said that he wanted to leave everyone with is to lead with love. So with that is on behalf of the Journey NYC podcast and Jesse, who's not here, I'm Anthony Luke-Akagi. This is Jeremiah Marshall. His TikTok handle and Instagram handle is Jeremiah King named Jeremiah. Give him a follow. He is absolutely inspirational. He is an amazingly strong human being and a butterfly person that thank you from the bottom of my heart for just giving us the time today.
Yeah, my DMs are open. If you're in the SoCal area, if you want me to make any appearances at any events and speak and tell my story, or just, hang out and smoke, just hit me up. Like, let's do this.
Okay.
Let's connect.
Thank
energies.
you yes, we'll connect energies. And with that, thank you so much for being a part of the Journey NYC podcast.
Yeah.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Until next time, take care.